Hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for Video Game Talk. In today's discussion, I want to talk about the magnitude of the Xbox Series S announcement today. I think Microsoft hit it out of the park with how they delivered this on Twitter. There's a whole story behind it. The price, the release date, everything about this looks really good. Now, to kick things off, late last night, the system was leaked. We did get an early look at it, including some specs, some price, some release date, but still technically rumor until Microsoft officially unveils it, right? Microsoft even had a little bit of fun on the Xbox Twitter page. They kind of put up the meme of like the funny monkey puppet looking like, whoop, got caught, busted. So they had fun with it. They rolled out the official reveal. Walmart went in and had fun and said, well, at least it wasn't us this time that leaked it, right? You know? And so that's all in good humor. So props to Xbox on being a little bit silly with it. But it was kind of one of those not so well kept secrets because products were coming out, such as controllers, where it said for Xbox Series S/X. We had titles that came out in advance showing compatible with Xbox One, One X, Series S, Series X. So we knew about this for a while, just not officially unveiled by Microsoft till September 8th, early morning. But they did it right. You see, console prices usually are competitive to one another, but I don't see PlayStation 5, for instance, being anywhere this low with either of their two SKUs. $300 is a really affordable entry point to get into next-gen gaming. Obviously, if you want to go the PC route, and you could get the GeForce 3070, 3080, 3090, you know that just for that unit, you're going to spend $500, $700, $1,500 and have to build a whole PC around it. For some people that are already PC gamers and have the majority of that set up, it's not going to be that difficult to plop in a $500 GeForce 3070 or a 3080 for $700 and have a really powerful next-gen gaming machine. You know, the best that gaming has to offer at a fairly affordable price if you're only looking at it as upgrading a couple of things and buying the next chip from NVIDIA, right? But if you're a console gamer and if you're looking at what to buy this holiday season, the Xbox Series X, presumably for $500, we don't know the official price yet, or the PlayStation 5 disc-based version, also presumably $500. You look at it and say, what does each one offer in terms of games, exclusives, plans? What's their structure like? Maybe it comes down to controller preference, etc. If you've got the PS5 all-digital version coming in at $450, again, this is just speculation. You say, yeah, I could save $50. That's good, but you know, I want that 4K Blu-ray player. I'm going to get the normal PS5, or I'm going to get that Xbox Series X because I have a lot of old discs from my Xbox library. Backwards compatibility comes into play, and so forth. If the PS5 all digital becomes $400, you're looking at a $100 difference. Again, this is all hypothetical talk. But when you get down to $300, and this is $100 to $150 to $200 less than the competition, including Microsoft's own Xbox Series X, you really see the value behind it, and that's going to be hard to beat. You know, Microsoft made a mistake with the Xbox One. They forced Connect 2.0 in the system by making sure that the system had enough power allocated in it to run Connect 2.0. That drew away what the system could have potentially done had that been an optional thing and just did a better job running games. As a result, you know, most of the third-party efforts that came out between Xbox One and PS4 looked better on PS4. Higher resolution, better frame rates, a little bit better visual fidelity. That is, of course, until Xbox One X and PlayStation 4 Pro came out. Then the Xbox One X was the most powerful system yet again, no longer required any type of Connect 2.0 to be sold with it or nothing like that. It still ran it with a kind of a clunky cord that was then later no longer sold. And if you wanted to buy one of those cords to connect your old Connect 2.0 to your Xbox One X, it was expensive. You had to look in the aftermarket, eBay, etc. But long story short, at launch, it made a big difference by Microsoft having the Xbox One at $500 and Sony having the PlayStation 4 at $400, because when systems initially make their debut, no console necessarily has the best, most powerful library at launch. They're fairly comparable in third-party efforts. They're both getting kind of the new fighting game coming out, the new sports game coming out, the racing titles, some third-party efforts from Japan, from Europe, from United States, maybe a port from last gen now brought up to a higher fidelity for the current new system that's coming out on the market, and so forth. Sometimes you have an exclusive make a launch, like you have a Halo at a launch, you know. Sometimes you have a Last of Us port at a launch. But like I said, the heavy hitters don't come out. So a lot of people, at least the mass market, tends to look at price. Now, if you are a long-time PlayStation fan and you have 4 systems in PlayStation territory, that's where you grow up. Those are the controllers you like. You like those several exclusive IP that you can't get anywhere else. This may not necessarily sway you over there. Likewise, if you're on Team Xbox and this is your 4th Xbox console and you love the Gears of War franchise, Halo franchise, Killer Instinct's your jam, you're probably not going to deviate. You may, based off of your own satisfaction level from the previous generation or seeing that the grass may be greener on the other side, you may switch. But for a lot of people that just want to get into gaming, go into the next gen with a machine, when 2 systems are coming out, obviously the more attractive one up front was cheaper. And this is such a powerful move because, especially with the pandemic, there are a lot of folks that still want entertainment, that are still willing to pay money, but don't necessarily have jobs or have their jobs impacted. Perhaps they're making less, they have less. Things are scary, so maybe spending more right now is a little bit, fearful, have a little extra caution. I have no doubt that these systems are going to sell. Obviously, Nintendo Switch has been out the entire year and didn't have a problem beating its own sales records ever. It was just dominating. So people have money. If people are saying, I've got no money, the pandemic is crushing me, some may literally mean that, and that is unfortunate, but most people still have some kind of dollar left for entertainment. So I think both platforms are going to do just fine this fall. For that matter, I think Nintendo Switch is going to kill it as well. Might be its best holiday yet. But a $300 entry point to get into next gen is a statement. It's a powerful system. It's going to run all of the games that come out over the next 7 years. It's going to be backwards compatible with any of the digital games that are able to be bought on the Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One library. It does come with 512 gigabyte SSD. That's not a lot of space. External memory will be available on it and probably at a pretty good cost. But looking at what the system offers, it's hard to argue that. I think for a lot of people that are fairly neutral and don't have this long love, this long association with a brand, that just like to get into games, buy whatever's coming up, maybe get into gaming for the first time, and they look at this. This is going to be interesting to see how the war turns out this holiday and beyond, because I'm thinking Xbox Series X is a $500 machine. I'm thinking that PlayStation 5, the current market leader from the previous generation, is going to position themselves at $500. If they were losing, I could see them going into this generation a little more humble and say we'll take a little bit of a loss so that we could bring back some of our audience. But if they're winning, they could be cocky and say, hey, our brand is at an all-time high, pretty much, with the PS4 only being second place to the PS2. We don't have to undercut Xbox Series X and take a loss on our PS5. No, we could release the thing for $600. I don't think that's going to happen, but I would think it's more likely at this point, in some ways, that the PlayStation 5 could actually be more expensive than the Xbox Series X just because of that. The brand value, the cockiness value. Even though the system, in most terms, on paper, has weaker specs, that SSD could push it to actually being more expensive. Then again, Sony could play it smart and cautious and either match or be lower than Microsoft in terms of their top tier equivalent systems. But I think that both of those are going to be $500. And then the next question comes to the PlayStation 5 all digital edition. It can't be $300. It is as equally strong, as equally competent as the standard PS5 disc-based system. The only difference is this one doesn't play games on disc format. It doesn't play 4K Blu-rays. There's no drive inside. So it will be less money. But same frame rates, same resolutions, same speeds, same game library, same access to the PlayStation Now store, PSN Plus, all of this stuff is going to be the same. So it can't be that much less. It's going to be just about the amount less that it can be thanks to not having an optical drive, no laser inside. But how much less? $450 seems to be the guess that most people are having. That is, if their standard edition is $500, right? A $50 difference. But is a $50 difference enough to get some people to buy that version? $50 isn't that great of a savings. It's less than one game. And since a lot of the games this upcoming generation are going to be $70, $50 difference becomes even less valuable, kind of, $100, okay. $100 is the difference between a Nintendo Switch Lite and a Nintendo Switch. If someone knows they only want to play portable, that $100 savings, that's perfect, $100. Yeah, I like the fact that it could be docked, but I'm honestly never going to use that function. I'm going to take that $100 off. Cool. $100 makes a difference. But as you can see, most people like the extra features of the Nintendo Switch regular model, and that's why it continues to outsell the Nintendo Switch Lite on most weeks, most months, and this is worldwide, because people see that value of $100 more, having the value behind being able to be docked, switching out the Joy-Cons, the fact that you have a bigger screen, now a better battery life, etc. So price between models is definitely important. $50 might not be enough to sway people into buying it. So who knows? It could be $400. It looks like it's a pretty beefy machine though. That's why I never picked Xbox Series X as being a $400 machine, because it looks like it has too much in it. It looks like Microsoft would be losing too much. You take away the optical disc drive though, Could you get an Xbox Series X for $450? Maybe. But on paper, it just has more. It is a more powerful machine than PS5, either standard or the digital version. So since we're talking about the PS5 digital version, the only thing it really has for it over Xbox is that advanced SSD, which is considerable. And then that's one more thing. I'm wavering between $400 and $450. But you see, they can't get down to $300 without taking a huge loss. This is just impressive. I have a little bit of a, oh, I like this one too. I have a little bit of a breakdown that I'll show you in a moment. Some of it is official information that was already released by Microsoft. Some of it is kind of what we have put together, speculation based, what we've heard, some rumblings on performance that kind of breaks down the difference between the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X. And you can really see what you're getting for your dollar. Then again, we don't know exactly how much the Xbox Series X is going to cost, but it's going to be more expensive, I'll tell you that much. And when you look at this comparison, kind of like that NVIDIA Ampere breakdown, you see that things are lined up pretty well, that no matter which one you're going to get into some good gaming. And that's what this is delivering, is good gaming. All digital gaming experience, 1440p as their target at up to 120 frames per second. The previously more expensive Xbox One X cost more than $300. And here you're getting a more powerful, more capable machine. And that's impressive. Yes, technology is always improving and it's coming out a few years after the Xbox One X, but for how much you're getting with ray tracing, everything in it, and 4K gaming as well, upscaling, it's pretty darn sweet. Now, for some people, this is definitely going to be their second console. You know, they've got their Nintendo Switch that satisfies all of their Nintendo exclusive games, a lot of third-party titles. It's convenient to have. Portable mode, take it on the go, enjoy your experiences outside of the home, inside of the home, have cool things that are different like Labo and Ring Fit Adventure and the Mario Kart Live interaction game. And then in terms of the other two systems, $300. I just want to have some exclusives that I can't get on Nintendo. I want to have access to some of the titles that will eventually come out from third parties that won't be on Nintendo Switch because they demand too much, such as Justice League, specifically Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, unless if Nintendo releases a Nintendo Switch Plus or Pro, or by the time that Suicide Squad game comes out, as an example, the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out. Otherwise, if you're a Nintendo Switch gamer, is what I'm trying to say, and you want to get this upcoming Suicide Squad game, but not have a big investment, your second system might be the Xbox Series S, just because it's so affordable. For some people, I see that if you're that PlayStation 5 gamer, you may consider an Xbox Series S because it's so cheap. You'll have access to some of the Xbox exclusive games that you may like or may be interested in checking out, but you also have the next thing, Game Pass. At $10 a month, or Ultimate Game Pass, $15 a month, you have access to playing games online. You have new games coming at you monthly. You have access, the ability, I should say, to play these Xbox games on PC. And there's a lot. I mean, you'll have no less than 100 games at any time, and big titles too. You see Dragon Ball on there. You see third-party games. You see Streets of Rage. You see Red Dead Redemption 2. You've got Final Fantasy. Big names, heavy hitters. And with the sheer magnitude of games at at the very least paying $120 a year. If you play 2 games in their entirety that you really liked, that's 2 $60 games right there, and you have access to well over 100 of them throughout the year. So Game Pass is a good reason to pick this up, this little guy right here, as your second system if you're a PlayStation 5 owner. You know, if I had a bet, I'd say that more PlayStation fans will pick up an Xbox Series S as their second system than Xbox fans pick up either PlayStation 5 model as their second system, you know? Some people will pick one and the Nintendo Switch will be their second system. Some people will buy all 3. I plan on personally having the Xbox Series X because I want the more beefy, powerful system. I will get the standard PlayStation 5 disc-based version, and of course I have my Nintendo Switch, and should we get a Nintendo Switch Plus in 2021 or the eventual Nintendo Switch 2, I will upgrade with that system when it comes out because I'm a fan of technology and I'm a fan of IP that come out on all 3 platforms. But give me a moment and I'm going to show you a little breakdown side by side of what Series S and Series X look like. Like I said, some of this information is official, some of it is kind of what we've speculated, what we've built up. But here we go. I'll scroll up a little bit here. Processor, the same, 8 cores at 3.8 gigahertz. Graphics, here you're seeing the true difference in the Xbox Series X on the left coming in at 12 teraflops. That's why it's so powerful. This is where it tops PlayStation 5 compared to 4 teraflops on the Xbox Series S. Now, again, as I go through this, some of it is not officially confirmed yet, but some people would say, how is the Xbox Series S going to be more powerful than the Xbox One X when this number right here, for instance, 4 teraflops is less? Well, despite it not having as many teraflops, they're better teraflops. It's wrapped around a system that's 3.5 years newer, 3.5 years more modern. So the technology in it is better. The RAM it's using, it's better. It's going to be using GDDR6, 10 gigabytes. Yes, the Xbox Series X has 16 gigabytes. But the Series S is designed to be primarily a 1440p machine. It will upscale to 4K, but if you just want a gaming machine capable of playing all of next-gen games and are happy with that 1440p experience, there you go. S is for you. You can be happy knowing that 4K gaming will be available on it, but the main difference is going to be if you're a standard 1080p television owner and you haven't made that jump yet, you are not about upgrading your whole setup and having the best of technology, highest frame rates, everything, which, like I said, most people in America, most people in the world aren't that way. People love graphics. They love the evolution of technology and seeing things progress. Of course, that's what we all want. We all want better graphics, better art, better CGI, better storytelling, etc. But there comes a certain point where things look so good that you're looking at something great and looking at something a little bit better than great. This is going to be great for a lot of people. For most people, I think. You'll be the hardcore gamer, such as myself, possibly you watching this, because you are watching a video game news segment, a video game talk segment online with me. And that amount of time kind of suggests that you are more of a hardcore gamer. And you'll probably want the beefiest system. But perhaps not. Maybe you're watching this for the first time, seeing this, looking at the breakdown, and feeling confident that, wow, I could get a beautiful looking machine in terms of what it's visually capable of producing on my 1080p TV, and it goes to a higher resolution than what I even own. yeah, why spend an extra $200 on an Xbox Series X when I could get all of the games coming out the next several years on this $300 machine? Yes, digital only. You will either have to play a game of refrigerator, taking games out of your system, deleting it to make space for a new game coming in. Game files are going to be big. You're going to see plenty of games that take up 100 gigs of internal storage. Delete it, put it back and forth. Hopefully you have good internet. Or buy little memory cards on the side, which are probably going to be pretty pricey, but we may have some third-party units that reduce the cost. But overall, you look at these two and you see, if you're not a 4K TV owner and need the best looking graphics, this is going to be fine. And don't worry about, because I see this comment often on the internet, don't worry about the fact that Microsoft has one SKU that's considerably weaker. Because like I said, there is a big difference in when it comes to the amount of teraflops, when it comes to the amount of overall RAM in the memory, 16 versus 10, the ability to go 4K at 60 as opposed to 1440 at 60. There is a big power bump in the Xbox Series X, make no mistake. That's why it's going to cost more too. But there's something called the law of diminishing returns, which I'm sure most of you, hopefully all of you, are familiar with, and that is, at a certain point, things look so good that it's not bad. It just looks a little bit better than super good at this point. So for most people, this is going to be just fine, I think. And there we go, November 10th. That's coming up pretty soon. It's interesting to see how Microsoft laid this out. I'm pretty impressed with their pricing. I'm looking forward to learning more. They did say that they will have more to share with us, which is pretty cool. Of course, they're going to have to. The system comes out in 2 months after all, right? That's kind of crazy. It's up to Sony now to surprise us one way or the other. Will they announce both systems pricing at the same time? Will they be in line with what we're expecting them to be? Will one be significantly more expensive than the other? And for that matter, how much will the Xbox Series X finally cost? And I don't like to leave anybody out of the conversation. What's Nintendo going to do? You know, I suggested, before we found out about Hyrule Warriors coming out, the prequel to Breath of the Wild, shockingly being released this November 20th, which is amazing on its own. Prior to that, I made a suggestion of what if Nintendo had The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, the proper sequel, ready for this holiday season, and early to mid-November released a bundle of Breath of the Wild 2 plus the Nintendo Switch at the new reduced price of $330, indicating that Nintendo would drop the normal Nintendo Switch price from $300 to $270, but have a special bundle of $330, and $330 came with the Nintendo Switch system and the prequel to one of the best-selling games and one of the most highly regarded, critically acclaimed games of these last two generations, or last gen and this gen, however you want to look at it specifically. That would be a price cut of $30, bringing the base model to $270. Nintendo would drop the price of the Nintendo Switch Lite down to $180, a $20 drop. But now at least that keeps them in the game in terms of price. And I thought this several weeks ago because just in case Microsoft pulled off something really attractive with the Xbox Series S, which they did, you know, you've got the most affordable console on the market, Nintendo Switch. You've got the newest system on the market, Xbox Series or PlayStation 5. But to have both, Microsoft, right now at least, if you don't count the Nintendo Switch Lite, which is purely a portable, unlike Nintendo Switch, which is a portable and a home console. Xbox Series S is now tied with being the most affordable home console TV on the market, one of the most capable of delivering games for the next 7 years, one of the most attractive in terms of cost and how much you're getting out of that thanks to Xbox Game Pass at $10 a month. And yeah, Nintendo has to do something. No doubt they're going to have some big games. And you would think Nintendo doesn't have to do anything right now. They are the current market leader. Generation 9 started with Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series S and X, PlayStation 5, all digital and standard edition. They continue Generation 9. Even if you don't agree and count Nintendo Switch as Gen 8, along with Wii U, 3DS, PS Vita, PS4, and Xbox One, and you count these two systems, Xbox Series S and X and PS5, as the beginning of Gen 9, regardless, Nintendo's been the most dominant hardware manufacturer, independent game seller of these past few years. Things are about to change though. Competition's coming out. Can Nintendo maintain that strong momentum, or do they have to do something to be positive in the public eye from a hardware standpoint? Obviously, they have a very fun, very unique system. It's the only system that straight up you could take on the go. Straight up, you could turn it into a VR unit that has some VR functionality with a small library, but still some at a very affordable price point. Buying Nintendo Labo VR, right? Obviously, we're getting some big games. Super Mario 3D All-Stars is huge. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Story coming out next year is huge. And of course, Hyrule Warriors, seeing the calamity from 100 years ago in this new title as a prequel to Breath of the Wild is huge. Pikmin 3 Deluxe, pretty big too. So Nintendo's fine. Plus, you've got Metroid Prime 4, Bayonetta 3, No More Heroes 3. Like I said, why would Nintendo, the market leader, need to do a price drop? But that's because you never want to get too cocky. If you're number one too long and don't adjust to what's going to come, if you can't anticipate the reality of new competition on the market or somebody doing a strong move, you will lose your place. So much of me says Nintendo doesn't need to do anything. Just release great games, have cool bundles, make sure the games come out on time, release a plus down the road. But the bigger picture part of me says Nintendo should introduce a proper price cut as their way to combat the arrival of two new platforms. So that on the market, in stores, what are the video game systems that the casual people are looking at getting? Nintendo Switch 270 TV system, okay. Xbox Series S 300, PlayStation 5 all digital 400 or 450, or these other guys that are 500 for the Series X and the PS5 disc version. Well, I'm a budget gamer, trying to get something for my family, all of us to play on the TV. I'll get the cheapest one, 270. That's how a lot of people work. I didn't include Nintendo Switch Lite in the conversation because it's already the most affordable, but like I said, it's really its own beast. It's just a portable at 200. But still, if you were going to drop one, I would drop the other. That way, you've got a 180 entry point or 270 entry point. If you bundle either with a game, okay, the 180 version becomes 240. That's not bad. And the 270 version, which is the standard Switch, becomes 330. That's not bad. Then at least you could justify, well, it's $30 more than an Xbox Series S, but it has all of these games and it even comes with a game. Cool. That's what I would do if I was Nintendo. What I would do if I was PlayStation is a little bit tricky because we don't know how much either PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 5 all digital is going to be. I think in their best interest, if they could get the PS5 standard disc version at a more affordable entry point than Xbox Series X, that's going to be one thing that helps them out. If somehow they could get it to be cheaper, that'll be to their advantage. But I don't know if they will, because one, that sense of market leader, I don't have to do as much to change because I already won the previous generation. I can be a little cocky. Two, maybe they can't without taking too much of a financial hit, because regardless of the fact that on paper PS5 doesn't do as much as Xbox Series X, perhaps that advanced SSD is kind of crushing it, and if they release it for too little of a cost, they're going to lose too much. So if I were them, match or somehow find a way to be a little lower than the Series X in terms of your disc version, and that PS5 all digital, I think you have to, from Sony's standpoint, be $100 less to really make an impact, because assuming these two big guys, Series X and PS5 disc based, are $500, if that PS5 all digital is $450, I don't think that's going to help Sony as much as they would like. I think they got to make it $400, and then you really have all of these different tiers. You've got 500s, 400, 300, my proposed 330 with a bundle with game, or 270, 180. You know, it's a lot to think of, but at least you have a lot of options. And if you're Xbox, which this is primarily an Xbox-based video, promote really well your ability to play games at the most affordable place with Game Pass or with Game Pass Ultimate, because that's really the most attractive thing about the system. That, and it's the most affordable. Most amount of games for the least amount of money. That's pretty nice. It is unfortunate for Xbox that Halo Infinite will not be launching this year. There are even rumors that it might skip out on Xbox One altogether and just be a Series S, Series X exclusive title come next year. Sony's in a good position in terms of games for the holiday season, because we've got the Spider-Man Miles Morales side story, which is a smaller yet complete game coming out this year, and we've got Ratchet and Clank, which looks great, also coming out this year, and we have Horizon Zero Dawn's sequel coming out next year. So in terms of exclusive titles per system, PlayStation does have the upper hand on Xbox, at least the here and now. So it's really a games versus machine kind of thing. I'm getting both, like I said. But if I were leaning towards a system, I'd say PlayStation 5 so far for games of what we've seen, Xbox Series S or X so far in terms of sheer value, thanks in part to Game Pass, and for Series S in particular, that $300 price point that I don't think is going to be beat. And of course, Nintendo Switch will always be a part of the conversation for me, because I think that is one of the best things that have been introduced into gaming in a long time. That's a whole video for another time, but it really satisfies the need of the hardcore gamer by having a lot of access to a lot of third-party titles, a lot of great Nintendo Switch exclusives, and quite a few third-party releases, all while being totally portable and a home console, and all for a pretty affordable price, $300. It never moved. Nintendo's definitely making more money off of that system than it did 3.5 years ago, because parts are cheaper now than they were then. So even if Nintendo does do a price drop this holiday season, they're still going to make bank. All right, that's enough of this Xbox Series S talk. I had a really fun time breaking down, doing a deep dive. I hope you enjoyed watching. Be sure to leave a comment. Any type of feedback is appreciated. Thank you for watching this episode of Video Game Talk with Paul Gale Network. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time for some more news and talk segments as they come out. Take care.